All right, hi guys, this is Ms. Vaughn for my Algebra 1 homework walkthrough for section 2.5. Let me go ahead and open my whiteboard. I'm only going to work through problem 30. I know that it continues on to 48 with the word problems, and y'all go ahead and try to do those. Look through them and try your best on the ones that you can. We're actually going to spend a lot of time Monday, once we're back in class, doing all of those together. To do those in a video makes the video from like 30 minutes to closer to an hour or longer. So let's go ahead and work through on section 2.5. It starts on page 72. Algebra 1. Okay, so for number 2, what they've done with the first part of A exercises, so 2 through 12, they're asking us to solve two-step equations. So number 2 has 5y plus 24 equals negative 36. So the first step of the equation, you can remember from the lesson, we do our order of operation in reverse. So you are going to add the inverse of 24 to both sides. So negative 24. So in this case, we subtract 24. So we're left with 5y equals, this is adding like signs. So you know your answer is going to be negative, and it's 36 plus 24, which is 60. Now you do the inverse of multiplication, which is division. So you divide both sides by 5, and you're left with an answer of y equals negative 12. All right, so number 4 tells us that 12 equals 2b minus 28. All right, so we can see on the side with the variable, we are multiplying it times 2 and subtracting 28 from it. So doing our order of operations backwards, let's add 28, add the inverse of negative 28 to both sides. This becomes 0, so we have 2b equals 28 plus 12, which is 40. So then you divide both sides by 2, since that's the inverse of multiplication, and you're left with b equals 20. But then, of course, write this correctly. You always want your variable to be on the left, so b equals 20. And you can always do that at the beginning. Remember, we have the symmetrical property of equality. So you could have rephrased that original equation as 2b minus 28 equals 12, and then solved it from there. Either way. So number 6, they give us 9d plus 17 equals 71. Okay, so you see a pattern here. Order of operations, we add the inverse of 17, so negative 17 to both sides. This becomes 9d equals, that is not, y'all, I've been crazy like this all day, minus 17. 11 take away 7 is 4, 6 take away 1 is 5. It's not negative. Okay, so then we do the inverse of multiplication to both sides. So we divide both sides by 9, and we're left with d equals 6. Number 8 is 4 plus y over 6 equals 9. Okay, so again, let's do our subtraction first. So that leaves us with y divided by 6 equals 5. So the inverse of division is multiplication. So we divide both sides, or excuse me, multiply both sides by 6, and we're left with y equals 30. Okay, so 2 more here. Number 10 gives us 2 over 5 times n minus 7 equals 8. So our first step is to add the inverse of negative 7 to both sides. So that leaves us with 2 fifths times n equals 15. Now, the inverse of 2 fifths is 5 halves. So you can see when you do that, they reduce down to ones. So that becomes 1 over 1, which is just 1. And then you multiply 15 by 5 halves. Now 15 times 5 is, let's see, that's 50 plus 25, so 75 over 2. And that's your answer. Unless you're Aiden, and of course you can turn it into a mixed number instead of an improper fraction. So that gives you, I think it's 37. Let's see, 15, yep, 7, 37 and 1/2. Either way, that's it. Okay, 12, we're working with decimal points. Negative 1.8 equals 4.6 minus 0.4s. So again, I'm going to do this the way I mentioned earlier using the symmetrical property of equality. So let's go ahead and put the entire side with our variable on the left. We'll just rephrase this as 4.6 minus 0.4s equals negative 1.8. Okay, so now we subtract, or you can also say add the inverse of 4.6, which is negative 4.6. And that leaves us with negative 0.4s equals negative 1.8 plus negative 4.6. So we're adding like signs here. So we just know that our answer is going to be negative. 8 plus 6 is 14, carry your 1. This gives you a negative 6.4. Then you divide both sides by negative 0.4. And once you calculate that out, you see that s equals 16. Okay. Okay, so 14 through 20 asks you to solve using the procedures for solving word problems and show all your work. So we are going to do these word problems here because they're a little simpler, and hopefully you guys have been able to work through them on your own. So we'll give us, this will give you a chance to check your process. So number 14, remember that when we are solving word problems, we need to read and plan, and then we need to solve our equation and check. So reading and planning obviously means that you read the problem and that you comprehend it, and either draw a picture or define your variables. And then you investigate the details from it and organize and arrange the information. You could either do it using a table or just, I like to do it in a list. That's what I'm going to do for most of these. So for number 14, it says the difference of a number and 72 is 12. So first we have the word difference. So we know that difference means subtraction. So there's going to be a subtraction in there. You have a number, so that's your unknown. And then you have the number 72, so you have a constant there, and you have a 12. Now also, when you see the verb is or was, which is just another form of that, that's your equal sign. So you know that on one side of your equation, you're going to have a 12. So the difference of a number and 72 means that, oh, excuse me. Oh, Lord have mercy. Come on. Here we go. Okay, so n minus 72 equals 12. So you then just go ahead and solve the equation that you've made. I'm just checking myself here. Difference of numbers. Yep, that's everything. So we used our, I don't know why I changed that to n. We used our x, we used our 72 and our 12, and we used our minus sign. All right, so add 72 to both sides. And you're left with x equals 84. Well, there we go. Now, to check, you would put the 84 minus 72 equals 12. Well, 84 minus 72. 4 take away 2 is 2. 8 take away 7 is 1. So that's 12 equals 12. Yes, it does. Okay, number 16. A number multiplied by 12 is 60. So we have number, we have multiplied by, we have 12, and we have 60. And see how it says a number multiplied by 12 is 60. That means it equals 60. So to solve, we would have 12 times a number equals 60. So find that number. So in this case, the inverse of multiplication is division. So you divide both sides, and your answer is 5. And then check 12 times 5 equals 60. Well, we know that's true from memorizing our multiplication tables, so we're good. Number 18. Deidre canned 24 quarts of beans, which was 4 times as much as Ava canned. How many quarts did Ava can? Okay, so we have 24, which was, so was is another version of is, so you know your answer needs to equal 24. 4 times as much as Ava can. So how many did Ava can? Well, if 24 is 4 times the number of Avas, then that's our equation. 4q equals 24. So we would divide both sides by 4 because that's the inverse of multiplication. And q equals 6 cans. Or 6 quarts. Probably a better way to put that. Okay, so then check your answer. 4 times 6 equals 24. Well, we know it does because we've memorized our multiplication tables. And so we're good. Number 20. 20 asks us to find the length of the third side of a triangle with a perimeter of 21 inches if the sum of the other two sides is 15 inches. So if I have a triangle and I have sides x, y, and z, and x is my unknown, they tell me that my perimeter is 21 inches. So that means the length of x plus the length of y plus the length of z equals 21. And then they also say that the sum of the other two sides, oh, good grief. Sorry, I'm bearing down on my screen so I can write neatly, and I wish I could make that thing go away. Okay. Anyway, the sum of y and z is 15. So then all you have to do is recognize that if you plug in 15 to this section of y and z, that we're given the equation x plus 15 equals 21. So then you add the inverse to 15 to both sides, which is negative 15. And you're left with x equals 6. And 6 inches. Keep your units when you're given them in word problems. Okay, so number 22 moves us into our B exercises. So these are just a little bit more complicated versions of the same thing. 22 through 30 that we're going to do are the solving the two-step equations. So we'll work through those, and then when we get in class tomorrow, not tomorrow, Monday, we'll do the word problems together. So number 22 gives us negative 24 minus a equals 78. Okay, so again, we are subtracting a from negative 24. So we need to add the inverse of negative 24 to both sides. This becomes 0, so we're left with negative a equals, I think that's 7, 8, 9, it's 102. All right. Now, you cannot leave your negative sign with your variable. That's a negative variable, not the value of the variable. So what you need to recognize is, remember, anytime you have a variable without a number in front of it, without a coefficient, then the understood coefficient is a 1. So what you need to do to get rid of that negative sign is divide both sides by negative 1. So this becomes a equals negative 102. Now check your answer. Plug it in, negative 24 minus a negative 102 equals 78. Well, we know that this is most likely true because anytime you subtract a negative, you're actually adding that. So this is negative 24 plus 102. So we're adding unlike signs. So let's just work it out over here. 102 minus 24. 12 take away 4 is 8. 9 take away 2 is 7. So 78, and it's positive because our larger absolute value is a positive number. And 78 does equal 78. Okay, so number 24. 24 gives us 1.2b minus 1.8 equals 47.4. So first we add the inverse of negative 1.8 to both sides. And we're given 1.2b equals 4 plus 8 is 12, 7, 8, 9, 49.2. Then we divide both sides by 1.2. And we find out that b equals 41. All right, now I can even go ahead and work out that math for you as well. So 49.2 divided by 1.2. I always rewrite this, move both decimal points behind 1. So 12 divided into 492. 12 goes into 49 4 times. 4 times 12 is 48. Bring down your 2. 12 goes into 12 once. And so that gives you your answer of 41. Okay, so number 26. So 26 is negative, here's my screen again. Negative c divided by 7.2 plus 4.7 equals 2.8. Okay, so first we add the inverse of 4.7, which is negative 4.7. And we're left with negative c over 7.2 equals, so these are unlike signs. So 4.7 minus 2.8, 17 take away 8 is 9, 3 take away 2 is 1, and it's a negative 1.9. So then, another way that you can sort of see a negative c divided by 7.2 is you can say that this is negative 1 over 7.2 times c, if it helps, because that helps you just keep the negative with the 7.2. So in order, the inverse of that is adding negative 7.2, or multiplying negative 7.2 to both sides. So these cancel each other out, and you're left with c equals, and then 1.9, 7.2. And they're both negative, so you know your answer is going to be positive. So you can just leave it that way. And that's 18 minus 3. Okay, 8, 6. So 13.68. You have 2 decimal places. And so that is your value for C, 13. For crying out loud. There we go. Okay. C equals 13.68. Okay, 28. D. Okay, 28 is just messy. D divided by 3.5. It's crazy. So I'm just going to, I don't know. I guess we'll just leave it like that. Since we're multiplying. 1/3 equals negative 2/5. Okay, so first we need to get rid of that 1/3 on both sides. So we add the inverse, which is negative 1/3. Well, and then I'm going to do it here, negative 1/3. So let's go ahead and find our common denominator. So this equals 6/15, negative 6/15, minus 5/15. So that leaves us with D divided by 3 1/2 equals, we're adding those because they're like signs, equals negative 11/15. So you can rewrite 3 1/2 as 7 halves. So if D is divided by 7 halves, then the inverse of that is multiplying it by 7 halves. God, I'm getting a bit fed up with this screen here today. Okay, these cancel each other out. You multiply this by 7 halves, and you're given D equals, now it's negative because you have a negative times a positive. 11 times 7 is 77. 15 times 2 is 30. And so your answer is negative 77/30. And then number 30 is 5 minus y divided by 2 equals 9. Now in this case, I would treat 5 minus y as, because that's as your numerator, you would actually go ahead and just get rid of your denominator first. So I would multiply both sides by 2. And what this gives you is 5 minus y equals 18. Then you, you add the inverse, negative 5 to both sides. So this gives you negative y. Make sure you keep that minus sign as a negative. 18 take away 5 is 13. Now, just like we saw in a previous problem, you can't leave your variable negative. You need to divide it by -1. And of course, with our symmetrical rule, we have to keep balance. So we do it to both sides. Therefore, y equals -13. All right, so that is 2 through 30 even. And go ahead and try to work on 32 through 48 yourself, see how many of those that you can figure out and do. I will be emailing out the answer key to this with the link to the video. So it should be in the same email together. Thank you so much, guys, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Y'all have a good day.